Hey guys, it's Miss DeLitto again. We've been talking a lot about writing equations to represent proportional relationships, and now we're actually going to use those equations to help us solve some problems. So, as we've learned in past lessons, proportional relationships can be represented by the equations y is equal to kx, or x is equal to 1 over k times y, where k equals our constant of proportionality. So now that we know how to write these equations, we can use them to help us solve problems about proportional relationships. So the first example, we're looking at the fact that the actual distance between two places is proportional to the distance between two places on a map. So a distance of 1 centimeter on a map represents 5 miles in real life. So I gave you a table here to help with this. So I know 1 centimeter in real life or on the map is representing 5 miles in real life. So if I had 2 centimeters in real life, I would have to have 10 miles in real life. And I recognize this because I know to get from my map distance to my actual distance, I'm multiplying by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. And we'll just throw 10 in here. 10 times 5 is 50. So looking at the table, I now know that my constant of proportionality, or k, is equal to 5 because I'm multiplying all of my x values by 5 to get my corresponding y value. To write my equation, I can see I'm also multiplying the x values by 5 to get y. So one equation is y is equal to 5x. As we looked in our previous lesson, we can use two equations to represent each proportional relationship. So now I can actually look at what's happening when I go this way. So when I go from y to x, I am multiplying by 1/5. So 1/5 times my y is actually equal to my x value. So my second equation can be x is equal to 1/5 y. Now I'm going to use those equations, and which equation I choose to use is going to vary depending on the information that I'm given. So part B asks me, how many miles would 60 centimeters on the map represent? So I'm going to underline 60 centimeters because that's also important. So I'm going to think about first, what are these equations that I wrote above telling me? This first equation, y is representing our miles. So this first equation is telling me miles is equal to 5 times centimeters. In this second equation, x is still representing centimeters, so centimeters is equal to 1/5 times my miles. So in order to find miles, I have to take centimeters and multiply them by 5, and in order to find centimeters, I have to multiply 1/5 times miles. Because I'm being asked how many miles, I want to find how many miles, so I'm going to use that first equation. Y is equal to 5x. And again, understanding this means miles is equal to 5 times the number of centimeters. In this case, I'm given the number of centimeters. I'm given 60. So I can replace x with 60. So y is equal to 5 times 60. And 5 times 60 is equal to 300. So y is equal to 300. Of course, if you are asking your friend how many miles would 60 centimeters on the map represent, you would need to not answer saying y equals 30, but you would say y is equal to 300, and you would answer saying 300 miles. In the next problem, I'm asking how many centimeters would be needed on the map to represent an actual distance of 11 miles. So if I want to find the number of centimeters, I'm going to know that to find centimeters, I have to multiply 1/5 times the number of miles. So I'm going to choose to use this second equation. X is equal to 1/5 times y. So to find those centimeters, we're multiplying 1/5 times miles. Because I know the amount of miles here, I can replace miles with 11. So x is equal to 1/5 times 11 over 1, or x is equal to 2 1/5, or 2.2, and we would answer this question saying 2.2 centimeters. We can also choose to stick with one equation. I'm going to show you your second option here. We can choose to use the original equation, y is equal to 5x, which again is telling us miles is equal to 5 times the number of centimeters. And I still know my miles. I can still plug that into my equation instead of replacing it on one side. Now I'm just going to replace it here. So 11 is equal to 5x. And I can solve this one-step equation by dividing both sides by 5. And again, x is equal to 2.2, or 2.2 centimeters. Don't forget that if you're not given a table or you're not given an equation to represent something, you can still draw a table or write an equation to help you. So if we look at our next example, Elena has some bottles of water that each hold 6 fluid ounces. So before I can even write an equation, me personally, I need to see that visual. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to draw a table. And one side of my table is going to represent my bottles for B, and the other side is my total amount of water, W, in fluid ounces. So I know that each bottle, or one bottle, holds 6 fluid ounces. I know that 1 times 6 is equal to 6, so my bottles times 6 is equal to W. So I can use this equation. W is equal to 6B. If you want to write another equation for this scenario, we can look at how am I going from W to B. Going this way, I would need to multiply by 1/6. So B is equal to 1/6 times W. And again, we can proceed to use this equation to help us solve problems.